Super, Hector. So it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you also for honoring our invitation to come all the way and support the inaugural Africa Football Business Summit. So this first interview is titled the Football Transfer Market, Africa's Labor of Love. And coming up with this title was really influenced by an article that I read on the called African Business. And this was a report that was based on, it was an article based on a FIFA Global Transfer Market Report 2021, which provided very interesting insights into the football transfer market and how Africa is positioned really. And I'll just read from a portion of the article so that we get the context of what we're talking about today. So it goes, African clubs and associations remain peripheral to the men's global football transfer market, even as African footballers account for a large proportion of traded players and some of the world's biggest individual deals, according to data from the world governing body FIFA. While 5 African nationalities, that is Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, appeared in the top 25 player nationalities, there were no African member associations in the top 25 associations engaging in transfers in 2021, according to this FIFA report. Just 5 of 2021's top 25 associations in terms of total receipts of transfer fees come from outside Europe, with no member association from Africa. That is despite the fact that Nigeria, 624 transfers, and Ghana, 456 transfers, ranked 6th and 8th respectively in the top 10 player nationalities by number and of transfers. Clubs in the region administered by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, released 663 players to clubs in Europe, the UEFA zone that is, for a total of $45.7 million. But only 219 players worth $5.4 million moved in the opposite direction. So those are the facts from the 2021 FIFA Global Transfer Market Report. And we here in Kenya are not even close to appearing in that report, despite us talking about transfers being one of the ways in which we can drive revenue into the industry on the continent that we're talking about here today. So thank you very much, Hector, for joining us today. Maybe just to explain to us briefly your role at FIFA.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, to briefly introduce as well myself. Well, my name is Hector Navarro. I think it's clear from my accent where I come from. So yeah, I'm Spanish. And I joined FIFA 6 years ago, actually. And well, before I was working in London for a law firm, and then I joined Real Madrid. So I was working at the legal department of the club for almost 1 year. And in my period in FIFA, these 6 years, I think I've seen many different legal things. I started seeing mostly all these transfer things that Brian was explaining now. And now, since the last 2 years, I'm also focused on governance matters and other regulatory things. So this is a little bit my background and my experience. And if we can come already to what Brian was saying, I think that the most important thing here is to understand where do we come from in terms of the transfer market. So I think we all know that after maybe 20 years, the transfer market has changed a lot. And here, of course, I'm going to speak about the whole transfer market. Afterwards, I'm going to focus a little bit more on Africa, but I want you to have an overview of the whole transfer market. And I think TMS, which is the transfer matching system, was actually a game changer on that when it was created in 2010, because at the end of the day, what made happen was that since that date until now, there is basically a web-based data information system where all the international transfer of players are gathered there. So no matter if we are speaking about a transfer of Cristiano Ronaldo, or if we are talking about a transfer between a club in China to a club in Australia, or between a club in Kenya to a club in Tanzania, where all that information is gathered in TMS. So I think that's important that we all have that information to start with our discussions.
Thank you. So you handle the TMS, the transfer matching system, basically, as he has explained, where all the transfer data is handled. And approximately how many transfers take place in each of this window? And if you could please break this down by continent, Hector.
Yeah, of course. So as said, basically the information that we have is back from 2010. So I would say we have information for the last 12 years, more or less. And I think we can really see that there has been a great evolution in terms of the international transfer market. We are speaking maybe in 2010 about around 11, 12,000 transfers around the world. And we are speaking now in 2022 about 18, more or less 18,000. So not almost double, I would say. So I think this shows us the evolution that the transfer market has had. And not speaking, of course, if we would go back 10 years before, so if we would go back from 2001, 2010, even if we don't have that information, I think it would be clear that as well the evolution until 2010 was great. So I think we are speaking about an evolving transfer market that, of course, was a little bit impacted because of the last two unfortunate years that we had with COVID. But I think we are again regaining a bit the trends that we had back in 2019. And if we speak a bit about more the trends, or if we divide that per confederation, I would say that the most number of transfers take place between countries in UEFA, so in Europe. This, I would say, is the most prominent transfer market. And then I would say the second one is from CONMEBOL, so from South America to UEFA. And here, sorry, because I would like to do to make a brief point here. When I speak about an international transfer of a player, basically what I'm talking about is not about the nationality of the player, but what I'm basically talking about is about the move of a player from one country to the other, no matter his nationality. And here, and the last point on this, is that when we speak as well about the international transfer of players, nowadays we are speaking about professional players, we are speaking about amateur players, and we are also speaking about women players. Because this is mandatory, women transfers are mandatory as well to be entered in TMS since January 2018, and amateur players since July 2020. So just for you to have as well this background when we speak about the international transfer market, that you know which are the figures that we are comprising.
Thank you, Hector. You've mentioned the biggest or the most active market is the European market, and this is followed by the CONMEBOL, UEFA moves. Where is Africa placed at the moment in terms of? Yeah.